Okay, so you might want to apply a strategy for reading a poem to understand it. And one strategy I've got is patterns, problem, and meaning. So first of all, when you look at the poem, you look for the patterns, and this could be patterns of structure, whether it's written in stanzas, how many lines there are in the stanza, and whether there are any internal patterns such as rhyme. Now, when we look at a Gaer and the Hill Fort, both poems are using the same stanzaic structure. The poem's written in stanzas, in verses of 3 lines each, which is a tercet. So we've got a rigorous structure that links with this sense of Welsh identity and Welsh poetry. And that's going to become key for understanding part of the meaning of the poem. So we can see that there's a pattern in the structure of the poem and its form. But what about the wording inside the poem and the imagery? Well, again, there's a pattern because there's repeated imagery of nature versus man. So we highlighted in a Gaer, the Hill Fort, the words to do with nature, such as hill, gorse, mossy, horse, land, and words to do with man, such as fort, defences, trench, rampart, gateways. Now, we've got that pattern in the poem of the natural things and then the human things being contrasted with one another. The human things seem to pass away quite quickly, and the natural things seem to endure. So that's going to be another key message that the poet wants us to understand in the poem. Now, once you have a look at patterns, you can also look for problems. Are there any parts of the poem that don't fit or stick out, or words which are emphasised that, you really can't ignore? And I think in a Gaer, what you can't ignore is the line that says, "I think I understand why the man who lost his son." Now, all of a sudden, the poem, which has been quite abstract about, a hill fort, something part of the physical, geographical landscape, suddenly gets very personal with a really sad story of a man who lost his son. And I think at that point, that line really sticks out to me because you can't ignore it. And to me, that is a key to the heart of not only this poem, but the one that goes with it, the Hill Fort, a Gaer. So that line is a turning point in the poem, and whenever you can find a turning point in a poem, like a volta, that's going to be really crucial to understanding the meaning of it. So patterns and then problems, things that stick out, things that you really can't ignore. In the Hill Fort, a Gaer, the part that I felt really stuck out to me that I couldn't ignore was "We're no more than scattered grains." And I think that sense of pathos that, we're human and we're faced with the reality of our own mortality, I think that is a wonderful image that is really at the heart of the poem, an image that helps us understand why we are part of nature and yet nature goes on without us because it has to. So that phrase of scattered grains really stuck out to me as something that was really crucial for understanding the meaning. So if you look at patterns, you look at problems, then you draw it all together for meaning. And meaning is something which you can really glean from putting all of this analysis together. When you read a poem, you can look on the surface level what it's about. The title gives it away. It's about a hill fort. But as we read it, we see there's a lot more than just a description of a hill fort here. What does the hill fort represent? Well, here it represents man in nature, a man-made construct in a natural landscape. The way that man longs to endure, but nature always wins. Nature provides comfort for the grieving man by its vastness, the fact that it can answer any question. But it also, in the battle of the elements, represents that turbulence that we feel within ourselves. We can see ourselves more clearly by looking at the natural world. And the kind of uncontrolled power of the natural elements can really help us sometimes to key in to the raging emotions within us that we don't understand, like the depth of grief. So looking at the patterns and the problems, we come to the meaning of the poem. The poem's all about nature and man, the fact that lots of things happen that we don't understand. Nature goes on, and we can go on too. Life does have to move on, and we can't stay still, but we always take the past with us, and nature helps us to anchor to the past. Because as we look out over the natural landscape that our forefathers dwelt in before us, we're reminded of our place in this kind of life cycle. And so, like the images of the scattered grains, we die, but we leave behind the seed that will then grow and blossom in the future. So ultimately, the poem is about grief and the sadness of grief amidst the natural environment, but it also portrays the comfort we can gain from finding our place within the world.
Hit subscribe if you'd like to follow my vlog for more updates on teaching, reading and studying.